Hey guys, it's Leota, and today's video is going to be on how to become a better analyst. This will be mostly in regards to becoming a better League of Legends analyst, but you can apply this to other esports. So the first and most obvious thing that you have to be able to do is using stats appropriately. You're going to need a certain level of game knowledge, which hopefully you do have, seeing as how you are planning to work or do some kind of project in that scene. And the reason why you need that is because naturally it lets you kind of interpret the stats that you find or create better. Basically, if I'm looking at some very simple Games of Legends stats pages from the LCS, I've highlighted the kind of things that you might want to look at or might notice. So the first thing is, okay, who has the most kills per game? That probably means they have pretty bloody games, a lot of fights. Are they actually effective at it? And if you look at it, it's like, wow, they have 16.2 kills per game. That is so much more than any other team in the league. At the same time, they also have 15.3 deaths per game. Wow, that's a lot too. There's only one other team who's even remotely close to that, and that is Shopify, who is at the bottom of the league. So a team that's at the top of the league almost has the same deaths per game to a team that is at the bottom of the league. That's weird. And at the same time, their game duration is the highest in the league. So they have the most kills, but their games are also going the longest. So just from that information, you can kind of piece together that they're probably a little sloppy. Because naturally, if you're going to have a ton of kills, you're going to have a ton of deaths, and your game duration is long, you're probably a little sloppy. Bloody, but a little sloppy. If I look at FlyQuest, they have one of the lowest game averages at 30 minutes, right? And of course, if you look at their towers killed, it's 7.9. This, naturally is that high because their win rate is so high. But also their deaths per game are 9.6. Whoa. Their towers lost, 4.7. Whoa. So you piece that together, it's like these guys, if they get a lead or they the game state is in whatever flow they like, they're gonna win. They know how to close and win. So that's a little bit scary, and naturally that's why they have almost an 80% win rate. And then I look at Team Liquid, a team with almost 50-50 win rate, 9.8 kills per game. So they're really slow. They just don't get stuff going. And the main thing you can say about that is, if you get into a fight, it's going to be a really important fight. Because they have so little amount of kills, those situations that they get into, if you win that, you're going to have a massive lead, because they naturally are probably not going to be trying to create additional situations to get back in. So that's a very simple way to go over team stats and kind of interpret them. And if you look at the player specific stats, so it's wow, Mask has a really low win rate, but he also has a really high CS per minute. So he knows how to get gold from farm. So he knows how to be strong all the time, which is an aspect that a good player will have, even if they're on a losing team. But his kills are kind of low. Okay, well that can be interpreted to either the team is slow, which if you look at Immortals, they have 10 kill average, which is not much higher than Team Liquid. So that is kind of true. The team is a bit slow, so it can be part of that. And it can also just be that, well, he just doesn't get himself involved in a lot of fights. So while he's strong, that strength is not being put to good use. Whereas you look at Jensen, it's wow, 10 CS per minute. So this guy is for sure always strong. And then he also has a high kill count. So that tells you it's this guy's being efficient and he's going to be strong. Now, I know how Jensen plays when watching his games, and I know that this is a little not 100% true how good he is, especially because how FlyQuest plays, and that's again where you have to kind of combine more things. But it at least tells you this player is definitely not bad. This player will have an impact in fights for sure. You look at Quid has 4.6 kills per game, 2.9 deaths per game. So again, the kind of aligns with 100 Thieves, where he's really, really involved in the fights. A lot of assists, a lot of kills, dies often. You probably would push this into damage per minute and like a few other stats just to see like how much is he contributing in these fights. But it's clear that he is involved. So that is a big marker to know. It's like, okay, this guy's really involved as a mid laner compared to like everyone else in the league. Like he stands out way more than anyone else. And then of course, if you look at Insanity, you'll see 7.3 CS per minute. And you think, is this guy really that bad? Naturally, you would dig in and you'll see that he's played Sion, Zac, Garen. So naturally, like he will be down CS, and that is a little deceptive. And that's where you would go and like kind of filter in like by some weeks in which he's playing real champs, and then see how he does on those. So again, like that's where you use stats appropriately. Because if you just instantly saw Insanity with 7.3 CS per minute, and you said this guy sucks, that wouldn't be a fair assessment. You definitely would need more. And if we push this even to further examples where you dig in more, so like let's say I had Dignitas, you know, okay, at 15 minutes they barely have a lead. They barely get the first turret. They mostly have most of their plates taken in top lane, which would indicate either they're playing for top or Rich is just doing that well. You know, they're getting Herald all the time, but they're not really getting Dragon. Again, kind of pushes in like, okay, so as a team, they prioritize this a lot, and they must be in a reasonable spot by 15 minutes to at least always contest and take Herald, right? This also could be an indication that maybe they just trade second Dragon for Herald because their Dragon rate's a little bit lower. If we push this further and we look at the individual carries, you know, they're all kind of like barely ahead, right? Like, oh, well, Rich is not really that ahead, even though, you know, they have more plates on top. Maybe he's the better player. That doesn't show much. You look at Dove, and it's like, same thing. You look at Tomo, same thing. So that doesn't really give you a strong indication yet, right? And then that also tells you, like, who the hell's the carry? Because I look at the damage done, and again, it's pretty even. So is it just so happens to be that they're all consistently like contributing, but they're all just kind of going even per se? It's just like something you're just not 100% sure, and then you push this even further to see if you're confirming like maybe they're just inconsistent. Because if a player can't consistently get a lead, then yeah, you're literally inconsistent. You can get it sometimes, you might be down. That is a sign that it's an unstable team, and they're still working through to actually solidify like these strengths and weaknesses. And if I look at like these simple like images I've taken, you'll see on red side, Sylas is down 20 CS. That's Dove. Top lane is 131 and down 10 CS. So you'd think, wow, the solos are getting kind of gapped here. Like their AD's doing okay. You know, he's a bit above CS and he's playing Smolder, so that's really good. But solos are doing kind of bad. Blue side, you know, oh wow, Dove is 2-0. He's up to like 15 CS. That's really good. Top is even with a kill, and then even their bot's doing decent. It's like, okay, well, that's a good sign. And then you look at the next one, it's like, wow, Dove is, or not Dove, Rich is like killing it. Rich is up 20 CS. He's 3-0. Like, wow. Dove, he's kind of struggling. And then Tomo, like, wow, this guy's like, I mean, he has a kill, but this guy's like way down there. So from these simple images comparing to what we saw here, it makes sense. Like, if you were watching the games and you took these screenshots, you would say, it's just given on a day, some players will do better and some players will do worse. And yes, that's true overall for any competitive environment, but in the end, the best players will give you that performance every time. And clearly, Dig just do not have that. And then if you want to go further, and so you want to watch a clip, and let me make sure that this is actually good resolution. So this is a fight. Dig is up 4K. You know, they're rather strong. Okay, they're rather strong. Like the Orianna is super weak. But watch how this goes. Nice little hook. These guys try to dive into them. Rich takes this guy apart. Tomo just flashes away, and Rich completely ruins them. And so from this little clip, and of course you're going to get more clips than this, you'll realize that, wow, Rich kind of just 1v5 this entire fight. Like Isle started up a little bit, but Rich absolutely just smashed it. And so if you pulled up more clips of Rich, right? More clips of Rich, and you compare this to like some of like these situations where he's like winning, you would think, wow, if this guy gets ahead and he has the impact he has that I saw in these fights, this guy is a monster. And so that's someone you would worry about. So his Cassante was amazing. The Poppy game, if you watched it, amazing. For Tomo, the more you watch, you may realize that he's not actively doing anything too crazy. He's just there to clean up and not actually a main focal point. And if you look at Dove, you'll notice some other things in that, well, Dove is not CSing the best at 8.7. Why is that? It's because he's dropping farms so he can participate in more fights. Because keep in mind, he has 3.2 kills, average kills, which is like not half bad. 5.1, so it's not half bad. But if you watch these fights, you're going to see that he's also contributing quite a bit, but there's some volatility in how his games are going. And the same can be said for Rich, but they contribute a lot more. So even though you see this and it can be hard to decipher, you see this and then maybe it confirms your suspicions on like maybe they're inconsistent, and it is partially true, but who's actually contributing in the fights when you watch it, it's like, wow, okay, their solo laners are really contributing. So next, a really good way to improve as an analyst, improve as just an individual, is posting content and creating projects. I'll be honest, if you are working on a team and all you're doing is just doing your scouting work, and you're just kind of chugging along and you're not really doing anything else on the side, you might actually like just get worse. You might just flatline, because I have found every time when I've done content on the side or I did it during the off season, I feel like I actively improve, because in another video I talked about like you don't always get the most feedback from the work you do, but posting stuff online and like kind of just explaining how you do things and your approach naturally makes you like better. I guess that's the same reason why like if you try to teach a subject, naturally you get better at that subject, because you have to literally showcase to others that you know what you're talking about. And so this is the same thing. So for me, you know, I've done, I don't know if this thing actually shows, but so I've done like, this is a in-depth piece I did on G2 that was before the World's Finals. So I covered a ton of stuff. Like, as you can tell, this is super long. I had a ton of pictures to kind of prove points, going over games, series. It was so much. And I learned a ton by doing that. Another, like, this is on tests, like scouting notes, and it's a little bit differently done. You know, you could kind of mess with your format and what information you think is good. And like I said, people will respond. Some people say, like, will actually comment and say they like this part, they don't like this part. The same could be said when you're making videos. Like when I made a video on how Faker and Co took down Weibo game 3. And so I just want to prove like what I know, what I can show. And I've done this before where, what was it? I think it was a Worlds game in like 2021 or something, where I posted a Medium article on what I think this team could have done better in the early game, or like the first like 8 minutes or something. And there was actually at the time, people would say more well-known like coach commented saying that I got something wrong. Like that idea that I had just doesn't apply and doesn't work. I've had a case where I was working on Golden Guardians briefly, and I did a presentation, and Hai told me that I was mistaken and I was wrong about a macro play that a team made. I explained why. And it's through like these situations where like you're putting yourself out there that you will find opportunities to learn, because you're going to learn way more from your failure, from your like mistakes. That's just a fact. Like you will remember it way more. So naturally, like doing this kind of stuff is really good. Obviously, you know, doing it on a team setting where hopefully you get feedback is even better. But if you're not the case, which I find that mostly the case, that you don't get a ton of feedback, that posting this kind of stuff publicly, really good. And of course, you can use this later on to kind of show teams and other individuals that, like, this is what I know. And it's really nice. Prioritize lower level leagues. Okay, people are really, I don't know what people think when it comes to like watching game volume, like games to learn, especially as an analyst or just like an individual generally interested in like WoW esports. But I found that you will learn more, at least at the start, by far, watching the lower level leagues. If you're going to go out and try to say, well, I'm going to go watch LCK, I'm going to watch how T1 plays, and I'm going to mimic that, I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't think you're going to learn as much. I think you're going to envision that, wow, my team should really be playing this way. Like, why can't my jungler just clear all the time while his laners win? Because they have the best laners in the world. Granted, yes, not all their laners are the best laners in the world. Like, you know, Faker's not the best mid laner in the world. Gumayusi is probably not the best, but he's definitely like up there. And then, of course, Zeus is. And, you know, when you have players that are that good, naturally your flow of the game is really simple. Like, as a jungler, when you can just clear your camps and move along because your laners are that good, that's not going to happen in your games. Like, that doesn't happen in LEC. That doesn't happen in LCS. That doesn't even always happen in LPL. And watching these lower level leagues, you will run into more situations where players are making mistakes, where lanes are not going the way they should be going, and then people have to adapt. And that's where you're going to run into more situations that you can apply towards your team and to your level. And once you kind of get a good grasp of that, watching these leagues, because some of these leagues have good play, like really good individual players that can play at the upper level, but obviously their team doesn't make the best choices. But you will pick up things that you can apply and are easy to, like, more easy to understand because it's more relatable compared to, again, watching the best of the best. Because when I was promoted to head of scouting, I had a whole entire year in 2023 to watch all these lower level leagues. I'm going to be honest, I learned way more doing this than just constantly watching like top level teams. Because I could apply it more easily towards development players, towards even LCS, and like, just like I said, like just seeing these like mistakes happen more often. I've witnessed these mistakes happen more often. As an individual player, you're going to want to watch top teams and top players because you want to mimic their strong laning play and fighting prowess. And that is where I do believe that watching top level like leagues is where it starts becoming more apparent. Like when I was watching Worlds and I was actually going into detail on things, that's when I like started learning a lot more on certain parts, which how do I say it? Learning certain like laning pieces, certain like very small things that, you know, you would see in a lower level league where a player would make a mistake or not prioritize it, and you see this player do it, and you notice it because you have all this knowledge from seeing the lower level leagues that you're like, oh, that's definitely better. And there's a certain level of discipline that players will have as well that is way different from lower level leagues. And that is kind of where your path lies. But if you're starting, or even if you just haven't watched as many games as you should, or you want to level up your knowledge, like I said, I would definitely prioritize watching like ERLs, LCK CLOL, especially because LCK CLOL, you can find some really, really good players in there. And then move on up. But keep like going into these leagues a little bit each time as well, because like I said, more mistakes, more applicable towards scrims that you watch, and overall it's just really nice. Play the game. I mean, this is super obvious, like, and test ideas. You'll see various ideas pop up with like, oh, Dobby videos that have like ridiculous posts on this or got rank 1 in Korea, and like, so maybe you want to check it out or something like that. Maybe it's like your top player might play it. I don't care for Karasme, but I'll say right now that like, oh, this is the best jungle pathing. Always take Grubs as Kane. Just check it out briefly. Just see what the hell he has to say about it, and maybe you'll learn something. Doing practice tool, like as an analyst, you probably want to go in the practice tool if you don't have time to play the game always, and try out different combos, try out damage. Learning how a champion operates, how a champion combos, how a champion feels, how items feel on that champion, it makes a difference. I can go to LoL Analytics and look up, wow, this is the best build for this guy because he has the highest win rates. That doesn't matter. Like that I'll be honest, I've made this mistake before where I've come up with ideas based on math that work and should work, but the reality is it just doesn't feel good, and the theory is there, the math is kind of there, but in the end of the day, when you actually go through it and use it, it's like, this isn't that good. And like I said, take ideas from others. That does come from videos that you watch on YouTube. It could come from Medium articles that you find, and there are Medium articles. Maybe it comes from watching streams from like top end players, like Doublelift. I mean, you might literally watch Doublelift play AD, and then you actually get an idea from him playing AD. There's tons of content on Twitter, so that's always a good one. You can contact other analysts or coaches, and asking them for work examples probably won't always go the best, but you can show your work example, and they may give feedback that you were not expecting. Like I said, you can look up work examples from others, because people definitely post them. And as you could tell, even for me, I've been posting since like 2016. Like, I have a ton of stuff. Compare your stuff to theirs. What are they doing that you're not doing? What are you doing that they aren't doing? And you may find some really, really good ideas from all this in the end. And you want to evolve. I mean, everyone always constantly wants to evolve their work. And I mean, there's just plenty of people that want to get into the scene, so you have to stay a step ahead. Self-assess. I mean, when you have a game, and you should watch your team play the games as an analyst, at least the stage games, you need to ask things like, why didn't our level 1 work? Like, did I look at the wrong things? Did I like over assume that they would do something? Did I not look at our own level 1s and kind of guess what they may do to us? That is really important, because like, if you don't self-assess your level 1s, you just kind of throw them out there, and like, your success rate is just terrible. Who's holding you accountable? Did you guess their playstyle incorrectly? Like, did you just get them completely wrong? Like, and why? What were you focusing on that made you wrong? Like, as an analyst, you can't have these kind of mistakes, so you must be like quick to fix them. Did you get your point across effectively? I mean, you might have all the right ideas in the end, but did your team actually execute any of them, or like use any of the information you actually gave them? Why didn't they? Is it because you just had poor word usage? Did you use like pictures that kind of help convey your ideas? Did you have video examples? Because I'll tell you right now, players have low attention spans. So if you don't show pictures or like videos, or it's just all words, that doesn't really work for everyone. Like, it'll work for a few, but majority no. So you have to actually look at what you're doing, because you might have really good content that you're giving the team, but it's just really poorly presented, and it just doesn't do anything. And so you have to figure that out. So this is kind of like all the information I can kind of give for a base level on like how you can improve as an individual, as an analyst in esports, in LoL esports, and use these tools, use these ideas, and hopefully you'll get better. If you are curious on showing work or getting better through talking to me, I don't mind. I've helped plenty of people for free. But you actually have to reach out and go to that like distance to actually wanting to get better. Otherwise, you'll probably plateau and probably won't really go anywhere because there's a lot of people who want to actually get to the LCS and LEC. Thanks for watching.